What's up, everybody? As you guys know, this is your Fifth Friend podcast. The reason why we exist is because we are firm believers that you are a combination of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and we're here to elevate that friendship and be your fifth friend today. This episode is sponsored by LaCroix. LaCroix in the house.
Gotta take our sips. Slowly
Refreshing AF. It's Friday. There's a long weekend coming up on Monday. It's 5:39 p.m. What are we doing here?
Guys, there's something that I've been thinking about, pretty consistently that I feel a lot of people need more help on, and it's around the topic of investing, right? People come to me and I hear all the time, like, how do I invest? When should I invest? And I wanted to have a conversation, open dialogue today to talk about everyone's kind of thought process around investing, what it means to them, why they invest in the first place, and maybe some of the factors that you guys consider when making an investment. So let's kind of get this conversation started and really think about first and foremost, when do you guys begin investing? When do you think is an appropriate time for us, maybe as founders or someone that has started a business, to invest? Or if you are maybe an employee of a company and you want to be able to have the aspiration to invest, when should you start?
I think the better question to ask is what avenue of investing? And I think the second thing we should talk about is what level you're at in the game. So pick one of those, give me a scenario, and then give Ashkan a scenario, 2 different ones. I'll explain what I think on one. Sure. He'll explain on what he thinks for the other, and then I'll give you a third, and you could tell me.
So do you want me to give me a scenario of a person? So cool.
Yeah. Who are they? What are they investing in? What's the intention? All the jazz.
This person is 31 years old. They've been working for a company for 6 years. They make $105,000 a year, and they have had a consistent salary and income. They got maybe, let's say, $30,000 saved up in their bank account. What should they be doing in that situation?
I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, but we'll play off of that. They make $105,000.
Yep.
Now let's think about who they are as a person. First question I want to ask, and again, make-believe scenario, but first question, how much are they bringing home after tax?
Whatever that bracket is.
Minus 25%.
So let's say 70 grand.
70 grand.
70 grand. What are their living expenses? Everything all in is a nut. What is that?
Call it 50% of that, maybe?
50%. Okay, so they have $3,500 to play with. Married, single.
500 or 35,000?
35,000. Excuse me. Married or single?
Single.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're single.
Okay, cool. And they work for a job. Do they have an IRA that's being contributed to or no?
No, they're uneducated. They don't know what to invest in. They just have this money in their bank account, and they're asking for help, and we're here to help them. What do we do?
Okay. First of all, that scenario is impressive because if you're making $70K after taxes and you're saving $35,000 of it, first of all, that's fucking
Well, that's
huge.
over their lifetime. That's how much is in their bank account.
Yeah,
But I was saying that they're acquiring, let's say they're pocketing an extra 20K at the end of each year.
Okay, he's got 35 grand in his bank account and he has an extra 20K coming in every single year. That's a good amount of money to play with. Here's my honest assessment of that. I've been trading for a long time. I would not recommend them to day trade. I would not recommend them to do anything stupid and try to hit a lotto.
But you are a degenerate gambler. Why are you advising everyone against it?
Because I, just as you said, am a degenerate fucking gambler.
You went to AA, you stepped off the cliff, and now
some people like the thrill and they like that kick in the dick, whether they make a lot of money or lose. I enjoy it both ways. That's not the normal person, and I don't advise it for anyone. But here's what I would do. Legitimately, I would take half of what's in his bank account. So let's say out of the $35,000, I take 18 grand.
Yep.
I'm going to put that immediately into the S&P. That's the first thing that I'm going to do. Then out of the $20,000 extra he has left over every year, let's say he makes $2 grand a month, I would put $1,000 into the S&P. I would put $500 into another ETF or maybe a very safe stock.
This is a monthly basis. You're going to add, you're going to contribute monthly.
Exactly.
Cool.
I'm going to do it every single month and not in one nut, and I'll tell you why. But I would put half of it into the S&P. I would take 500 and put it into a safe giant market cap stock, the FANGs of the world, right? Do Facebook, do Google, do Tesla, do Apple. And then the other $500 goes into something way more speculative. It could be IPOs or smaller companies that you believe in. It could be, I don't know, Roblox, whatever the fuck, but something more speculative, something riskier. But now you're well diversified. Why do I want to do that? Because I'm banking on Apple not failing. I'm banking on Google not failing. That's a good place to go.
Sure.
If you look at the 30 years of the past S&P gains, 9.77%. Everybody says, oh, I want to make 6-7%. I don't really care about that. If you put in the S&P, you will make close to 10%. So you know that you're always compounding there.
Assuming you don't pull out and, try to get out of your position too early
never,
because something happens. Yeah.
Never pull out. I would never fucking pull out. I would keep my money
there. This is a long game.
Always a long game.
Yep.
Keep the 10% there. The others are going to be safer investments, but they'll probably be higher than 10% if it's a good year. And then the remaining $500 that you put in speculation, it becomes a hero or it becomes a zero. But the goal is you're heavier in your portfolio, 75% of it, in something that's more stable so you have money to play around with. Second thing, and to your point, why don't I put it in there all at once and I do 25%? Or every single month I put in $2,000.
Sure.
The reason I want to do that is so I can average in all the time. We know that the market bing bongs up and down. It could be very speculative and it could be very cyclical.
And when you say average in, for those that aren't aware, you're talking about dollar cost averaging into the position.
Exactly. And all that means is, let's say you buy Apple for $100, the next day you buy it for $90, the next day you buy it for $95, your dollar cost averaging in. I don't necessarily want to buy when it's too high. I don't necessarily want to buy when it's too low. I just want to consistently be buying so my average price is steady. If the market goes up, great. If the market goes down, great. I'm not that deep exposed because I have the dollar cost average. And I would just keep doing that over and over and over again. I think people want gratification yesterday. They can't hold it out for themselves.
Yep.
If they could just wait 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you keep at it. Little Davy from Georgia that takes home $70,000 after tax will be a millionaire before he knows it. And I think people just get way too caught up in trying to get rich quick instead of building a foundation that really fucking matters.
Okay. Now, a couple of follow-up questions to this use case here. On my end, some things that I think about is, before I even want to start investing, I want a nesting egg. I want to actually have emergency money in case I hit a rainy day, in case my car breaks down. Something happens where I actually need that cash on hand. So,
Fair.
If we're saying this, $35,000 example, I want to be able to understand that I have enough money in emergency funds as a starting point before I even begin investing. What are your thoughts around that?
Depends on how much risk you want to take on and what your appetite for it is. I don't think this is very cookie cutter. It's smart to have money in the bank. Like, I like to have 6 figures liquid at any given time.
Sure.
Everything else is gone. And the only reason that I like to keep that big of chunk of money is because if an opportunity comes up, I want to jump on it. That's not investing in the markets. And I have a business that I'm running. So if anything goes south, I can inject it with cash. But if I was a normal person, dude, it's like, how much money do you really need? Let's say you have 10, 15 grand.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. But again, tolerance to risk. It's good to have. It's not necessary. Some people like to bank that money on themselves. Some people want to go to the casino and gamble it all, and some people want to put in the stock market. The only good thing that I see about putting in the stock market and not keeping it in your bank account is how liquid it is. You could get out whenever you want, right? So if you need it, if some emergency situation comes up, click sell, plug it to your bank, the next day it's there. You don't have a thing to sweat about.
Okay.
My 2 thoughts.
No, that's an interesting perspective. I'm going to get Ashton's thoughts here in a second, but on my end, I'm definitely for, hey, I want to make sure I have some cash in a nest egg to be able to take care of at least, 3 to 6 months of, emergency, funds.
But do you really?
I would want to be able to have that cash in the bank account. I want that ready to go. If something happens, I'm being fiscally responsible. And I think a lot of people do think in that safe aspect, right? Me and you, we might be a little bit more extreme, but I think a lot of people think of that way. Another thing to think about is, real estate is also a great vehicle, and people can get into real estate and invest in real estate where they can, have the opportunity to get in front of a fourplex, be able to kind of, hack into living in one of the locations and having other 3 locations rented Ashton, what are your thoughts on that in terms of taking the real estate route and investing that way if you are in this kind of use case of the persona that we're talking about?
I like how he gave you real estate.
I mean, if I was in this person's shoes, it's tough to buy all the real estate in the world. It's tough to be in that like situation there. But if you're making 110 or 105 grand or whatever it is, you're taking them 70 grand. You have 20K in the bank account at that point. You mentioned
20,
35. I got it, but don't think about what little Jimmy
and then
did.
where do they live? Is the next really important
Georgia.
question.
Georgia.
All right, dude.
I picked Georgia.
Georgia's a home run then.
Rural
Cool.
Georgia.
Beautiful. I love Georgia. Never been there in my life.
When the fuck have you been to Georgia?
I've never been to Georgia.
ATL.
But all right, if I'm in this person's shoes, I think there's a couple things. So I like that. Like I'm much more of like a conservative person when it comes to investment strategy. Like there's a rule called the rule of 72s, which means that on average, the stock market, if you're getting a 8% return, your money will double in 9 years. If you're getting a 12% return, your money will double in 6 years. So like people need to get like the money that you're actually investing in the stock market. If you can get that to grow, it grows exponentially with time. And it's a really massive opportunity for you to like, make something big. But that's going to be your base hits, right? That's going to be ready for you by the time you retire. And I think the question you got to ask is, are you looking to be at the same level that you're at right now, the same shoes you're in during this exact same time? Or do you need like a little bit of a couple of like home runs, some triples to be able to get to the lifestyle that you want to? Because this is not doing that. This is kind of hitting you a bunch of base hits. You're growing. It's a very responsible and smart way to be very successful when you're 40, 50, 60 years old, which is great. Everyone should be looking out for that. But how do you start hitting a little bit more like home runs or like triples when it comes to like at a younger 31 years old? Like I'm trying to make things happen there. And I think there's a couple different ways to make that occur.
Okay. Give it to me. Lay it on me.
I'm ready. You're looking at me. So I think there's a couple different ways. So one is like, yes, I would take a small approach towards like investing that way, put some money aside, get some compound interest going. It's going to pay off. The smart move. The second thing I'd be looking at is how do I take some of that cash and invest a little bit into myself? Right. So
I love that.
You have some cash aside. How do you go and chase something that can be larger? And I love people that work with us that are, they're working, they're doing their thing during 9 to 5, and afterwards they're going and they're trying to shoot for their home run, whether it's on like the freelancing side of things, trying to develop their own things. We have a lot of team members internally at TalentPop that are doing that, and I love it. And I support every second about that. I want you to hit home runs. So it's like, how do you go and invest in knowledge, education to go ahead and get you there? Whether it's like sales, a side hustle, whatever. We're in the e-com space, like learning about e-commerce. Like I think there's a lot of avenues to really see how you can start hitting some triples over there. Then there's the real estate approach. If you're in Georgia, it's a good idea to go into real estate, or any of the South where like these property values make a lot of sense to go ahead and do so. So I would be doing kind of something similar to what Arman mentioned, is like, how do I get myself into a fourplex home? You can put as little as 3% down
FHA
on a
loan.
home. 3%. In Georgia, a fourplex is probably like $400,000. That'll cost you $12,000 to buy a 4-unit home. From there, you are able to live in that home yourself and collect rent from 3 other families there. Those 3 other families will pay for more than your own mortgage, and you'll get paid profit, and you'll be living for free. On top of that, you're going to be taking advantage of appreciation. That home is becoming worth more and more and more money every single year that goes by, which is another massive win. And then you can just rinse and repeat that process. Next thing you know, you have a array of like 3-4 multifamily properties, and now the net worth on those, as they appreciate 10% every couple of years, it's like you are now adding an extra $30,000 a year to your overall net worth that way, just from the appreciation of these properties. Never mind the cash flow it's producing to help just kind of add to your payroll on your end of things. Like I think it's a massive win, especially when you're somewhere with cheaper real estate. Here in California,
there's no fucking way.
You're not getting that. You're like, we're in Southern California. Like homes are really, really expensive over here. You're absolutely not getting it there. But there is the opportunity around like flipping property if you want to be able to do things a little bit differently, be a little bit more hands-on. That's a little different game. You need a lot more time in your hands. You need to have some balls. Like it's a little bit of a different game there. But that's how you can really hit a couple home runs. Because the average flip, you might make 10, 20% on that, 10, 20% of a $500,000 home. That's a quick way to make $100,000 right there in one hit.
You know what I find really fascinating? we live in a really expensive place, and it's only gotten more expensive. I've lived here my whole life, but like, why don't more people relocate into the Georgias of the world so they could go in, have that quadplex, do the rent arbitrage, and make a better life for themselves? Like, is the opportunity of living in California and having that job versus being in Georgia and not having to pay rent, which is your biggest expense, or your mortgage, just going off and doing it that way?
Depends what you value.
Yeah, I think it depends what you value. I think it's a matter of making sure that you have people around you that have similar goals as well. That's going to push you to invest. That's going to want to see you actually do things outside of your 9 to 5 that makes you hustle, that gives you the extra expertise for you to level up and get those opportunities to potentially earn more money, to hit that home run. And I think number one thing you should be doing is you need to be actually investing your time in your education. As Ashkan mentioned before, you want to be able to invest your time to learn more about investing, right? Listen to podcasts like these, having conversations with your friends about investing, right? You're the average of 5 people you spend the most time with. We're your 5th friend, but you got 4 other friends that can, hopefully learn from as well, and to have these conversations more frequently with them. Let me ask you this question. What would you guys not want to invest in when you're in this situation? Like, you're not going to invest in, let's say, your grandma's business, or like, what are some things that you want to just make sure you stay clear of because it's a distraction, it's too much noise? What are things that you're thinking about? Hey, this is not the right investment for me.
I'll keep this one really short. Absolute no-nos. Don't invest in startups. Don't invest in your friend's idea. As much as you love your grandmother, like you said, don't fucking do that. Do not play with options or derivatives. There's a way higher chance that you lose your money. Outside of everything, you guys both touch on this, and I agree wholeheartedly. The goal is to invest in yourself. Give you a perfect example. If you spent $3,000 on a course that could potentially change your life by giving you a skill that you haven't had, you can turn that $3,000 very actionable within 4 to 6 months into triple or quadruple that with whatever it is that you're doing. If you dedicate 4 months to it, there's no way you can't make 10 grand. Let's say 6 months. You put that $3,000 in a stock and it goes up 10%, you make $300. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's a no,
immaterial.
It's an absolute no-brainer. But again, to everybody's point, everybody's looking for home runs, but they don't understand that single after single after single after single will eventually give you that home run. Just do it more incremental. It doesn't have to be all at once.
And you don't have to put 100% of your time or your dollars into the home run. You can put 50% and do it the safe way. One of my mentors, Dan Fleischman, he's all about the 40-40-20 principle. So being able to have, all right, get him to laugh it all off.
How much have you been looking forward to that?
Looking forward to it, but we're going to talk about it. 40-40-20. 40% safe investments, 6 to 8% return.
I like it.
Being able to invest in index stocks, things like that. That's where you're going to get the safe return. Now you're talking about the next 40%. This is more of the medium investment profiles. So real estate, that could get you that, 8 to 20% return, a little bit more of a safe investment than, a startup or anything like that, but it has a little bit more upside than, a traditional index fund. And then your 20%, you can have as the opportunity for your shot to glory, those larger,
those are the lotto plays
to be able to invest in those companies. But I think you have to be at a certain level before you should even be considering that 20%, investment. If you're making $105,000 a year, I would not recommend spending any time on that. That 20% should be invested in your education.
I agree 100%.
But that is at the same time, $105,000 is a extremely substantial amount of money for you to do just about anything that you want. Live a very comfortable life, where even in Orange County, California, and on top of that, have enough access income to be able to invest in yourself, to be able to hit whatever home runs and goals that you want to be able to hit. So that is plenty of cash to be able to literally make anything happen. But then the key is in your hand to open the right door that you want to open and really pursue that with the after hours of what's going on. If you're working a job and you have an opportunity to learn, take those learnings, look around, be curious, see who knows things. From there, ask, be involved, get curious about it. And once you do, those when you get home at 6 o'clock or whatever it happens
There's
to
so
be,
much time before you go to bed.
it's like, dude, you gotta, like, if you want it, you gotta chase it right then and there. Like,
Yeah.
that is your window of opportunity to chase it down. And it doesn't need to be something where you walk away from what you're doing. But now, if you can put together an extra $1,000, $2,000 a month from just some sort of side hustle, whatever it is, and then watch it mature and grow over time, it's like that becomes a massive, like, life-changing opportunity right then and there.
I think of that as pure margin too, because all of your living expenses have already been met. That's just
And it's risk-free.
cream on top.
And it's risk-free because you have another job that's paying for all your lifestyle. If you go and jump ship and go the entrepreneurship route, the minute you do that, your income stops coming in. And the minute that happens, it's like pressure is absolutely on. And like you're either going to like go hungry or you're going to have to figure it out. And sometimes people like the pressure, but it's a lot. It's a lot to handle. Not everyone's built out to handle that. But if you do the after work approach or whatever it happens to be, you know, you could be a little more conservative as long as you can track your action, making sure you're not playing games and fucking around, and you know that you actually are making action towards that goal and not just playing the game to play the game and to say that you're chasing something down. Like, you got to go all in and still take massive action after 5 o'clock p.m.
Yeah, and I think if more people did that, the world would be better off. But that's neither here nor there. I'm going to redact my statement. Here's what I'm going to say to little Jimmy from Georgia with his $105,000. First thing I would say is...
Put it all in crypto.
Stay the fuck away from crypto. I would say get a roommate first and foremost. Make your living expenses from $35,000 if you can to $25,000.
Play a little defense there.
Right?
Yeah.
Play little defense. You could live with your little hubby, with some homies, whatever. Lower your expenses as much as you can. Still invest the same way that I told you. The arbitrage between what you used to have as your living expenses, which is $35,000 versus the $25,000, that's $10,000. Use that to learn, and now you have the best of both worlds. If you're willing to give yourself a little bit of compromise in how you live, you'll go way farther. I'll give a perfect example. I don't need to be living with multiple roommates, but I do. I live with 3 people so I can have what? Lower rent obligation, lower living expenses. It doesn't matter how much money I make. 1, I like the company. But 2, if you could split your expenses where your life would otherwise not be affected, why wouldn't you?
Let me ask you guys this question. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. What has been your best ROI on an investment that you've made?
Not much.
I'll go last.
So you don't think
what was your biggest hint?
So I mean, I wouldn't even put it in terms of just like an actual investment that gives me a cash return. I would put it on the investment in myself.
Your free flow.
Right? I think being able to actually invest in your education, you know, listening to hours of podcasts a week, being able to listen to things that you are educated on, but also not just listening and just trying to absorb all information. Like, you should be taking time to put it into action,
I
right?
agree.
You need to be able to understand, hey, I want to find one thing that I feel like I can go all in on and be able to take that level of education that I've been doing all these times after hours and actually putting it into use. So whether it is going to be to invest in your first home, you should understand what it takes to get an FHA loan, what it takes to make sure that you can have that property managed, and
Walk
being
the
able
walk
to,
and talk the talk.
and be able to actually
Yeah.
put that into fruition. Don't just kind of watch, a ton of Pace Morby videos and just be done with it, right? You got to be able to watch the videos, educate yourself, but put into action.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that my best investment has been when I have been taking the time to consume, understand what I feel is within my investment criteria,
Yeah.
and start putting into action. Like, in my end, I invest pretty much on a monthly basis into something, whether it's in my education, whether it's, I'm investing in real estate, I'm thinking about an opportunity to invest in a restaurant, whatever it may be. I am taking into action because I've done my research.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
People need to stop fugaziing and just start like taking the action that's necessary.
People get way too comfortable with the idea that I've learned something, but they don't do anything after that. Because they could say, I read the book, I saw the podcast, I did the course. Then you ask them, what the fuck did you do with it? What's the answer most of the time?
Push them on. It's like standing at a pool, right? You can stand there and you can look at the pool and you're like, dude, that pool, it looks so nice in that water. It's going to look so good. I have it all planned out exactly what to do when I hit that water. But it's like, you don't ever jump into the pool.
Until
It's
you
just
swan
need to
dive,
fucking
baby.
Jump in. You need to jump in, take action, get your first visitors on your website, make your first sale occur. People collect so much knowledge, but they forget the most important thing, and it's like that pen needs to eventually touch the paper. And like things need to get done, whether it's the real estate, the business, whatever it happens to be. Like you need to jump in, swan dive, cannonball, hit it off the high dive, and make things happen.
I couldn't agree more. I want to share the story about what I did as my best investment.
Let's hear it.
But here's what I want to do, if we're okay with this. We just talked about common folk, right? Not necessarily an entrepreneur. You have a great career for yourselves. You live in rural Georgia, whatever.
Sure.
I want to flip the script because you brought up Danny. That's higher net worth individuals. Let's do part 2 to this. Part 2 will be what I did with my investment, because I think people are going to be really fascinated with what I did and how I did it. Mm-hmm. And then we could talk about net worths and brackets of 100,000, 500,000, and $1 million plus, and what we would do in those respects.
So we'll break it down into multiple series. We'll go over each of these investment criteria. So depending on whatever level you're at, we'll go into detail as to what we think you guys should do, but obviously take with a grain of salt and do your research as well.
And people have to remember, like, we're super biased. We are ballsy. We like making big bets. We're business owners. This was a very good example of don't invest, build your skill set, get to learning, get to action. It'll be way more fruitful than anything else you'll ever do with the S&P 500. But the next one, we go balls deep into how we're really throwing money around and what can come out of it.
Yeah, guys, if you want us to go balls deep, we feed off your oxygen. Feed off your oxygen. We need you to subscribe. We need you to like, share, do all the above. That's how we're going to be able to get this in front of more people so that we can continue to educate more people. Let us know in the chat what you guys thought about this. We appreciate you guys. Happy Friday. Whenever time you're watching this, we love you. We'll see you in the next episode.
I'm never letting you do the outro again. That was incredible.
That's it.
Fire off.